Detroit Lions fans, you did it. I know there's a lot of Detroit Lions fans who follow the channel, and we've been talking all season. There's been ups, there's been downs. There's been some really ugly moments, but in the biggest moments and when it mattered the most, you were able to lean on Jared Goff. You were able to lean on Dan Campbell, the team that Brad Holmes established. I just look at this game and the way that it went, an offensive explosion early, but down in that second half, when things got a little bit stagnant offensively, you were able to lean on the defense who made some timely plays, bend but don't break as we like to call it, down there in the red zone, making exceptional plays on a jet sweep by Puka Nacua, making exceptional plays on a screen pass to Kyron Williams. These are the types of things where in those moments, you have to step up because it's now or never. Dan Campbell gave his game ball to two guys in the post game, one being Brad Holmes and one being Jared Goff. And what he had to say with Brad Holmes really describes the fan base of Detroit. It describes the players on this football team. And you're looking at it like, okay, Dan Campbell said to Brad Holmes 3 years ago when he took this thing over. Now, when he had the whole biting kneecaps bid and everything he had to say, a lot of people looked at it like, can we take this guy seriously? Are the Detroit Lions seriously going to turn it around? Because we all hear it, S-O-L. But he said that 3 years ago, he and Brad Holmes were two guys who met as the general manager and Brad Holmes, head coach, and Dan Campbell. And he was able to see a guy who he was in locksmith with. They had the same vision. They were aligned on the same paths. And what they wanted to do was build a team built off grit, determination, and nastiness. That's everything you saw from this football team. Now, I want to dive into the game a little bit before we talk about some of those takeaways, because this is a huge milestone. And Detroit Lions fans, take the time you want. Go ahead and soak this one in, because there's been such ugly moments. We think about some of these franchises like the Cleveland Browns, like the Jacksonville Jaguars, some franchises who haven't had the most success. And I think you look at an 0-16 season. You look at the Matt Patricia era. You look at the Caldwell era. Now, it's a situation where even though there's been a lot of turnover, a lot of different things happening with the football team, you finally feel like you have some stability and consistency. The Lions defeat the Rams 24-23 in nail-biting fashion. The Rams punted the football with 4 minutes and 7 seconds left on the clock. Sean McVay had one timeout left. He probably thought he would have got the football back. And I think now hindsight is always 20/20. It's a decision we can question on Sean McVay's end. But looking at it, I think that you kind of had a chance until Jared Goff made that play on second down to Amon-Ra St. Brown. The Lions win their first playoff game in 32 years, and they end the NFL's longest postseason losing streak of 9 straight football games lost. So this is a lot of history being built upon this team. We're looking at some of the things. I mean, even Sam Laporta. We talk about Dan Campbell going for it on fourth down. I mean, if he gets down in the red zone, it's going to be fourth down territory. He had a play where he was lined up. It was man coverage by the LA Rams. He was aligned on Michael Hoyt. Now, the Rams, they love Michael Hoyt. I think he had a great season over there on their end. But in that play, to match him up with Sam Laporta down there in the red zone man-to-man, Sam Laporta is going to win that matchup every time, and that's what he did on a 4th and goal situation. Big-time play, gutsy call by Dan Campbell, and we see what happened. Now, getting into the game a little further, Jared Goff went 22 of 27, extremely efficient in this one. 277 yards, and he had a touchdown to Sam Laporta. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 7 receptions, 110 yards. And also, I think early on in this football game, we saw they were able to lean on that run game against a Rams defense who can stop the run. But really in the first half, the Lions had their way. Then we look at the second half where Raheem Morris was able to do those guys on the defensive end. They really clamped down and tried to make some plays and get back in this thing. But of course, you have to score in the red zone. Matthew Stafford, 25 of 36, 367 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also added in his post-game interview, he's happy for the Detroit Lions. And I think that even for Detroit Lions fans, they don't bring in Matthew Stafford well. I think he's done a lot for the franchise. Of course, he didn't win at the highest level. And this is a question we're going to have. Matthew Stafford all-time Lions or Jared Goff all-time Lions? Because Jared Goff won a playoff game, and he's probably going to win more. We're going to talk a little bit about that further down in the video. But how do you look at that, Detroit Lions fans? Let me know down below in the comments. And then we get over to Puka Nacua. Now, I love C.J. Stroud and everything he's been able to do this season, but we're going to have to honestly have that conversation. Now, the NFL doesn't give co-offensive rookie of the year awards, but you're looking at what Puka Nacua is able to do in a receiving core with Demarcus Robinson, Tutu Atwell, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee at tight end. He's a guy who consistently stepped up in this game. He broke the single game receiving yards record for a rookie in the postseason, which was previously held by DK Metcalf. Puka Nacua is an exceptional player. 5th round pick out of BYU. I've already talked about him a little bit on this channel, but he deserves some of that credit. It's no way you can go this season without getting one of those awards. I don't know how it's going to play out. I don't know how it's going to go down, but Puka Nacua is an absolute baller. They couldn't tackle him in this game. How many times did you see Puka Nacua catch the football yards after the catch? He had a big-time touchdown early in the first quarter. He just had his footprint stamped all over this football game, but, of course, they couldn't pull it out. Now, I think actually talking about what happened in this football game, how did the Detroit Lions actually win? It comes down to the red zone. When the Los Angeles Rams go 0 of 3 in the red zone, and then you have a Detroit Lions team who they kicked the field goal on their first offensive drive in the second half, but in the first half, they scored on 3 of their 4 offensive drives. Touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. That's the difference in the game. You're looking at a team where it was halftime, it was 21-17. If the LA Rams scored a touchdown on one of those drives, instead of kicking the field goal on that first scoring drive, that's the difference. 4 points right there. Then you're looking at a locksmith tied up game at halftime. So I think in those situations, you say, okay, for one, Sean McVay, some of the things he did in the red zone, but you also have to credit the Detroit Lions defense, who, while they let the LA Rams get into the red zone, they made the biggest plays in the biggest moments. I think that we saw a team who is trying their hardest to get Cooper Kupp involved in the red zone. However, though, you look at C.J. Gardner-Johnson, you look at Ife Melifonwu, some of the guys who were just matched up, whether it be man or zone at different times in the red zone, they took away Cooper Kupp in the red zone. He had 0 touchdowns in this game. And then you also look at it like, okay, we're abandoning the run game, because I think that when you look at Kyron Williams, 13 carries of 61 yards, he went out in the fourth quarter with a hand injury. But for the most part, we know the Detroit Lions can stop the run. They stopped the run extremely well in this one. The Rams couldn't get it going, although they've been a balanced attack. This is an elite offense. We saw that today, but it wasn't as much brought along by the running game. However, down in the red zone, those situations where, okay, we take a sack, we get a negative play, we just can't connect. Demarcus Robinson, we tried to get him one down there on the right side of the football field down in the end zone, and it's just great coverage. So when you bend but you don't break, and you consistently lean on that with an offense who gave themselves a little bit of a cushion. You scored 21 points in the first half. You kicked the field goal on your first offensive drive in the second half. So for the LA Rams, they've had chances in this game, but they could not score touchdowns when it mattered the most. I'm looking at Matthew Stafford, though. I think Matthew Stafford had an exceptional game. Everything he was able to do, throwing off different platforms, throwing off different arm angles. The first drive, I believe in the first quarter, there's a throw where he's throwing, it's a safety in his face, a pass rushing blitzer. Now we're looking at it where we're side arming this thing, making a throw like that with the same velocity and the same accuracy. He made a throw to Puka Nacua on the right side of the football field. You're like, how are you still doing this? How can you throw off of your back foot? How can you throw off of these angles with the anticipation where sometimes the receiver isn't out of his break? You can't even see him because you have a pass rusher in your face, understanding the offense and having that arm talent. Big time game. But like I said, we got to clap this one up and give it up to the Detroit Lions. A huge victory. And I think before we get out of here, we got to foresee some things in this divisional round. You play the winner of Tampa and Philly. Now, I don't know how these two teams will play tonight, but I think everything that we've seen up to this point, the Detroit Lions at Ford Field Stadium once again in the divisional round, they'll be favored. You're looking at a team who didn't win a playoff game in 32 years, but can possibly end up in the NFC Championship. And then once you get there, I mean, even if the Green Bay Packers somehow magically win the game against the San Francisco 49ers, I mean, the way Jordan Love is playing, if Joe Barry can get his defense to play like they did against Dallas, it's any given Sunday. That is a very talented team, but the San Francisco 49ers, of course, they're a very talented team as well, very well coached. But with the Detroit Lions, I'm looking at a team who, like I said, I'll favor them in the divisional round against the next team that they play. Philadelphia, they have an opportunity to prove some things, prove that they're back on their level of football. And then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a lot of people have counted out this football team. Baker Mayfield, Dave Canales, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. So you have to pay attention to those things. And I think the luxury that the Detroit Lions have, they can watch the football game. You're going to see, okay, this is exactly what we're playing. Of course, you're going to have the film study. You're going to get installed. You're going to go against these guys and practice on scout team, getting the look. But You get to see it up close and personal, and you don't have to worry about, okay, what do we have to do? All you have to do is watch the game, see who the opponent is going to be. Shout out those guys for the big time win. That's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And now,